What is up, Texas Sopa Jigging? David Duncan here. Tonight is a really cool interview with us. We're going to be doing Tyler from Coco Charters. I'm waiting for him to jump on just in a second. And then once we get going for it. So I just started the live stream and the group. Hopefully we get Tyler to jump on here in a second. And then we should be going from there. So let's see who we got. So I've got Hunter. Once I grab Tyler, we'll kind of get going. Hopefully I invited him. So I've got Noah in the stream. I got Hunter. Just waiting for Tyler. I sent him an invite. So I got Noah. Who do I got? 3 people. Hunter. Okay, robust. There we go. I got him now. There we go. What's that? We got it to work.
Nice.
Except you are sideways on me.
All right.
Perfect. First off, I want to thank you for taking time out to talk with the group for it. I had heard nothing but positives from you, so I know Greg is kind of recommended as the one that I get with you on all this. And then, of course, we both know Joey from down the bayou. He was a huge advocate for it. So we definitely want to get you on for it. We've all seen kind of the catches or whatnot for it. Some rather impressive. I made my head small on this one for it. So we appreciate you taking the time tonight. So Tyler,
Yeah.
I guess, where are you located? Like, where are you now?
Like I said, appreciate you having me. My name's Tyler Mistich. I'm in Houma, Louisiana. I run out of Coco, Louisiana. It's my home port out of Coco Marina. On a 37 Freeman Bushwhacker.
So what made you choose, are you from the Houma/Cocodrie area, or are you from Baton Rouge like everybody else?
No, I live in Houma. I'm local.
Okay.
So I'm a quick down to the marina. So
Nice.
I fished. I fished out of all the ports on the coast. But Cocodrie is the closest one to my house, and to be honest, it's my favorite to fish out of.
So kind of going back to something I know you kind of dressed for. So just so everybody's aware, he runs a 37 Freeman, and you've got quad
Yamaha 300s.
So 300. So these are the questions I get asked. We're going to address them real quick. What's your cruising speed?
Fast. Calm day, 47 knots.
So you're 47, and then that's just your cruising, and then coming back about the same. Some people do 40 out and then 50 in because everybody wants to get their ass in real quick. So yeah, that's why I was always curious.
It just depends. It kind of depends on the day and the current conditions. If it's calm and we want to air it out on the way back, we can run it harder. That's a medium to light cruise. The 37 Freeman with quad 300s, it's a 72, 73 mile an hour boat. So we got all the speed in the world we want.
That's all I ask. A lot of us are used to boats that are doing like 16 miles an hour, and then you just go to sleep for 6-7 hours till you get out there for it.
Oh no, this is not that. This is a fast boat.
Everybody's seen some of the photos, right, of everybody who's catching stuff down in that area for it. And so you're another huge option for it. And what's beauty of you guys being a Cocodrie, if you're coming from the Texas side, instead of going to Port Fourchon, is I think you guys are like an hour closer. I think it's almost like an hour closer to Texas for it. So if anybody is interested in jumping on with Tyler, just know if you're driving from Austin or Galveston or Texas, driving to Cocodrie, you save an hour. So both ways, it saves you an hour drive time. And so what grounds are you fishing kind of like out there? Anything we see with – you guys have a very unique area, right? We fish the west side of the gardens, but you guys are just kind of that next untapped area that a lot of the Texas boats can't reach, which is the beauty of it, right? So you guys have a lot of untapped lands and waters that a lot of the big head boats out of Texas can't reach. So you guys kind of have that virgin soil almost.
Yeah. Out of Cocodrie, and I don't know if you fish with Joey, you know the same thing. We run west from our home port, and that puts us central to western Louisiana, kind of in that range.
Okay.
Normal trip for us, 90 to 120 mile run from the pass. So 2.5, 3 hours at a good cruise speed, and all natural bottom. That's what we do. I do a lot of jig fishing, and that's really my main focal point. That's the clientele I'm looking to build.
And that's what definitely get into it. I just try to knock off the bucket items first
Yeah.
because I get hit all the time when people ask me a question. They go, "How fast is boat? How big
Yeah.
is it? What's his run time?" So you've already addressed that. So it's 2-3 hours, right? So you're cruising you're like some of the boats is you're coming out and then you're hanging west. So you're not going. Maybe I'm wrong. You're not going super far from shore. So you're only going like 180 to 100 miles from shore, but then you're hanging west and then you're making a long ride west for it. Am I wrong with that?
Normally, as the crow flies, you could probably call it 80 to 90 miles off the coast, but we're going west to get to that untouched stuff, natural bottom that's kind of more centrally located in the state, you know? Um, so not only coming from Texas, it's a shorter drive, but it's also a little shorter boat ride too than Fouchon because I'm further west in the state than they are. Not much, about 20 miles.
Perfect. So before we get into I'm just gonna try to eat the vegetables first, and then we get to the fun of talking fishing. So, Coco Tree Charters. So they got you obviously with 37. What other amenities do you guys offer for? I know y'all have housing there as well too, right? So if
Yeah.
somebody is gonna be booking with you guys, y'all do housing. Kind of talk us through some of the stuff that kind of has that, and then we get into the fun of talking fishing.
Yeah.
I just kind of get the business side out of the way.
Yeah. For booking, we handle everything in-house, cocomarina.com, and that also includes lodging. They put you up in an elevated camp. You know, they're super nice. Sleep 6 people or more than that for bigger groups for multi-boat stuff. We have some that sleep, I think, 18 to 24 people. So we can accommodate multiple boat trips. Coco Charters, we have 5 Freemans. I kind of do the majority of the slow pitch bottom fishing stuff. Some of the other guys do more pelagics, yellowfin, and stuff like that. I mostly do bottom and wahoo and swords, and we also have lodging and restaurant on site at the marina.
Okay, so now we got all the business talk out of the way. So how did you get into slow pitch? Like that's one of my favorite questions because it's always the craziest way how everybody gets into it. Either they see somebody doing it, thinking they have a trout rod, or something
Yeah,
funny that always comes from it.
dude. I got into it. I'll be honest. As well as running a charter boat, I also have a contender, which is my private boat that we fun fish on. And like most people, I was watching on YouTube. I seen some guys out of Florida catching these yellow edge on jigs. You know, so I was like, man, if those guys can catch them in the current that they deal with over there, I know in Louisiana we'll crush them on it. So I did like everybody else and bought a bunch of entry level stuff to begin with, just because I just wanted to kind of test the waters. And since then, I've been jigging probably 3 years in the Gulf out of Louisiana, and nobody else was doing it when I first started. So I related what everybody was doing in Florida to here, and I've caught fish with it since the first time that I brought jigs offshore. You know, yeah, they've been incredibly successful. In the beginning, I was mostly doing deeper stuff, yellow edge and snowies and tiles. And then I kind of worked my way shallower, which is kind of odd, I guess, now that I say that out loud. Most people start as shallow and work their way deeper, but I was already fishing out there with conventional stuff and bait. So then I just started dropping the jig. And to be honest, on a lot of days, the jigs were more productive than bait when I was first starting
And you almost
out.
ran before you walked. Like I've seen everybody start on like snapper boats, right? Like we see everybody going for snapper, and then they buy their $100 little
Yeah,
rod, and then they get like their 200, 300 grams. You start running out to snowies before most of us were like catching snapper and then anything else inshore.
I think the first fish I caught on a jig was a golden tilefish.
That's
Yeah,
a
like I started out.
lot of people's so that's the beauty of it, right? So like one, you guys have untapped land, so there's a lot of area out there too. So if you're moving spots, like it's not high pressured fish, which is awesome. And two, your current allows for you guys to fish some of that. For some reason, like I feel like the Louisiana current, I don't know how it is with the winds or whatnot, is it's a lot calmer than like for our side of the Gulf. For some reason, like for us, I feel like our current on certain days is like whipping. Where we were
Yeah,
out there before and
our fishery, for whatever reason, we don't deal with real high current situations. And if we are in current, normally you can make a couple mile jog over and get out of it pretty easily, from what I've seen.
and so for the group, the beauty of fishing out there, and you can probably test it better, Tyler. For I've only fished 3 times now, right? Is that a lot of times for us, we would be using 5 to 600 gram weight jigs for it. But the beauty of like everything out there is I was fishing 500, 600 feet and I was able to get away with a 300 gram jig because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no current. Like at one point, We stopped, and Joe VT got frustrated because the boat didn't move. He's like, we drifted 30 feet in 10
Yeah,
minutes. And
yeah,
so
that happens.
it's
Especially like
unheard of over here on our side.
yeah, and the beauty of that I've seen is when you fish those lighter jigs, you get a lot more hang time with the jig, so they fish better, in my opinion. So, like when I'm scamp fishing on a calm day, I'll fish a 140 in 300 feet of water, no problem. Because the boat just doesn't. We don't move that fast normally. Now, if it's windy and it's rough and the boat's moving, that's another thing. But like on a typical summer day, you can get away with fishing small jigs. I don't have anything in my box right now over a 400 maybe. Most of what I fish is 300 and 200, that region.
That's kind of a luxury. Like I said, I keep up to like 1,000 grab jigs sometimes. Like I have those. I don't ever use them very often,
Yeah.
but so the beauty of why I was trying to get everybody kind of attached to some of the Louisiana captains is one, the head boats from Texas hammer a lot of the western side of the flower gardens, or sorry, yeah, the western side of it, and a lot of them don't have the fuel capacity to keep going further into y'all's neck of the woods, and because of how far south down the bayou is and Cocodrie, from my experience, there's not a lot of boats going out. Like we didn't see any boats out there, so there's not a lot of pressure. Captains aren't having to hide their spots as much because you just don't see anybody all day.
I work closely with the other guys that do what we do. Like it's not one of those things. I've fished in fisheries that are like that, but this isn't one of those things because we have about 40 miles of untouched bottom that we fish. So it actually helps us to work together.
Yeah. No,
So with
no,
that,
that's the reason I'm saying that for is go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, I was just gonna say, like you mentioned earlier, I can fish a week straight and not see another boat. And if it is, it's gonna be somebody that I know. You know what I mean? Because there's so few people out here that's doing it. Like it's either gonna be somebody that I know, or like I said, I won't see anybody. So it's
We
not a fish. It's not pressured. The fish. I mean, on most days, it's not like you got to get real technical with it. You send the jig down there and it gets eaten for the most part. It's not. I've seen other places that are real technical and tough to fish, and you've seen it. I mean, that's not normally the case over here. It's a
No, that's
really
one of
good
the things. Like if you
place.
go out of Galveston or Texas, you're always seeing boats launch, right? Like everybody's
Oh,
launched for the big marinas, so you're seeing a ton. Down there, it's like it is a drive. So I want everybody in the group to know, like it is a drive to get there, but it's worth it. You're driving to a remote area because the proximity to untapped grounds. Like if it was overly developed, would almost work against you guys. If you guys had that too, you have so many boats going out, and then you don't necessarily have the same opportunities to fish 40 miles of untapped lands for. Like you said, you can fish a week and then cherry pick where you go.
yeah, and I mean, I've seen it. I grew up fishing Venice too, and I mean, they're dealing with it now. You go to Venice on a busy day, you see 80 boats in a day.
Yeah.
I don't see boats in a year. It's that much of a difference.
So, what are some things that you've noticed, right? So, you have 3 years of jigging out there. What are some of the things you've taken away from it? Like, what do you think makes jigging so effective in Louisiana, like that area for it?
Well, for one, we already talked about lack of current. That's really, really good for jig fishing because you can get the jigs vertical, which is I've seen very important to stay vertical and stay close to the bottom. That's a big factor. Lack of pressure is a big factor, and not so much on the platforms because we have platforms out here. I'm sure like y'all do off of Texas, and they do hold fish, but I don't jig so much on the platforms because there's so much bycatch and there's a lot of snags and hangs and everything else. And the next thing
We
you know,
cringe when I hear we're fishing jet rigs. So, obviously, I'm sponsored by Johnny Jigs, but I keep cheapo jigs. I tell everybody,
oh yeah,
bring cheapo jigs because if you're fishing cutoffs,
you know it.
you cry very quickly when you lose a $30 jig. Grab that crappy jig in the bag that you send down there to AJ, or you get tangled up in the piling.
Instantly. And then
You cry a lot less when it's $8 versus 30.
oh, I'm with you. And then you fish for an hour to get the bite you want, and then it gets you wrapped or sharked or something like that. It's just, I don't fish rigs. So with that being said, we have an extensive natural bottom fishery out of Cocodrie or Fouchon. And I mean, I don't fish the same spot twice. I don't have to. It goes for, you can't fish 2 square miles in a day. And we got from east to west 40 miles of bottom. So I mean, you can't fish it all. You know what I mean? Not every rock. So we have the luxury of being able to bounce around. It's not like we're fishing one wreck like some other places where you get your fish off of that wreck, and if they're not there, that's it. No, this is constantly moving around because it all holds fish.
So what are the best times to, okay, so we have a calendar year, right?
Sure.
Usually scamps are closed. It's like January through April 1st.
Yeah, end of March.
When is the best times for it? Because if you guys don't know, Louisiana's an interesting area for it because they have exotics. So you do have a ton of fire. I don't say a ton, but there are firebacks. There's marbles. They'll do pick up some kitties. And then there's the crazy amount of like queens you've seen in photos and then yellow edges and stuff like. So what are the best time when people are trying to book with you guys or just fish Louisiana to come out? Like when do you think are one of the best times and what part of the year are people not taking advantage of that you say you could tell people recommend?
Winter can be really good for jig fishing because it's not full of bait offshore. That seems to make a difference when there's a lot of live bait offshore. I find that jig fishing can be tough on those days. So the wintertime can be good. But the thing with that is it's just getting the weather to go. I mean, you can catch grouper on a jig every day of the year. The main thing is getting the weather to make the run. So what I would recommend is get together, look at some days, and then when the time comes, of course, we look at it, and if we have to push, we will. But I mean, you can go out on any given time and catch them. You know, last jig trip I ran was 3 weeks ago. We had an incredible, really good fishing. So just because it's winter, don't think that you can't do it. You definitely can. It's just if you get the weather to make the trip.
And the beauty of winter fishing, like y'all saw my photo. I was fishing the same day as you. I was texting you kind of we were there. Beauty of winter fishing is you can hit your whoos in the morning, right? Like you have an opportunity to go for wahoo and jigs. And so that's the beauty that a lot of people don't want to go for winter fishing because there's a current and the windows. The beauty of it though is you do have opportunity to mix in other type of fishing with it for, especially if you do a 36-hour.
Super fun day. At daylight, you got the wahoo baits out, and then once that slows down, you're on the grouper grounds already. So that's a really, really fun way to spend the day.
So I guess a little bit of bragging time for it. So what are some of the things, because everybody wants, like, I get told, hey, we want exotics, we want Queen Fest, we want big grouper, because I've been lucky enough to catch quite a few species out there, and I've only fished there 3 times, and I've had 3 really good trips. I haven't got my exotic yet, but I guess just do your bragging session. What have you caught that's been your signature items that everybody should know about?
I've caught just about all of them. There's a few that I haven't, but I mean, I've caught firebacks, marbles, kitties, queens, golden tiles, barrels, yellow edge, snowies, African pompanos.
Do you guys get into cabaras? Have you gotten a cabera yet?
I have not, but we do have them.
I've seen them. I've seen the photos. You can't help but see the photos all over the places down there for it.
So, man, the ones that we have, like, we don't have these. We have
they're massive.
Yeah, I haven't quite figured them out. Me personally, I'm still going for a cabera and a black grouper, and we do have those.
That's what I was going to lead into because I've talked to you, so you guys know. Like, I have a trip planned with Tyler. We were supposed to, the Texas Hoseby Jigging Group was supposed to have a trip with him, but weather didn't work with us. So we're pushing it into next year when we can pick a prime time spot. So we're not bringing in a captain that the group members aren't using, right? So myself, Ryan, William, and G was supposed to be on it. Colin, Matt West, a bunch of the group members were supposed to be booking with you. So we've talked a ton about it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not anybody that we just brought in because we didn't trust or know for it. That we've been having a ton of communication. If y'all could see the photo albums of photos Tyler has sent me, a fish that I dreamed of caught, and then I have to scroll through very jealously, like looking at all of them for it. So I have seen kitties in them. We've seen firebacks, marble, where they're almost not even exotics for you guys anymore, right? For us, like when we catch one, it's a celebratory one. For y'all, it's almost, not saying business as usual, but it's not as much of a surprise when you guys are catching these fish.
Well, what you see, the finished result wasn't always the case. Like, there's a bunch of trial and error because I fish just like you guys, you know what I mean? Like, I went through the whole stretch of it.
Yeah.
So what you now, me holding a big fireback, it's not, I didn't fall into that fishery. Like, it took a lot of time and effort. And that's what's the beauty of going with a guide that knows an area like that, because I do the same thing. I travel, I go with different guides when I go do something else, and it shortens that learning curve so much. If you have a really exotic, hard to find fish, that's what helps you get to it. You know what I mean? Especially something like this in Central Louisiana where you got long runs and it's a trip, man. I get it. You know, I
Oh,
do.
it took me. So on the way back, I was an idiot. So I got half an hour. So if everybody knows, Joey's in Port Fourchon, so it's an hour a little further. I got 30 minutes away. I realized I left my duffel bag, so I had to turn around and drive back across that long ass bridge. So I got hit with the tolls again going back. So that added an extra hour round trip on top of all the construction for it. So
Brutal.
it is a haul, but I can tell everybody it is worth it. That's why I'm bringing some of the Louisiana captains in, and then we'll have more Texas ones, obviously, because we are a Texas group. But these are trips of a lifetime. You guys
Oh
have
yeah.
killed it. Like Joey said, he works with you the most because you've busted your butt to learn the fishery
Yeah,
yourself. And so that's
we
one of the
do.
reasons he said that you are one of the few, or not few, but one of the people he's like actually shares information with because of the fact that you're learning it yourself. You went out there, was cutting your teeth, doing it solo, just kind of from the ground up.
I did just like he did. So now we do work together only because of the fact that he respects the work, because it's such a big area. And these fish that you see are trophies because they are very hard to catch.
Yeah.
So until you put that work in, you don't want to give that information out to just anybody. And I'm selective like that too. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I have a big network of people that I deal with here local, and that stuff's sacred to me because I know the work that goes into learning that stuff.
And I didn't mean to
So,
ask you like what area. I just want everybody to have a reference. Like if they're coming out, you're going west, just kind of give a general area for it. Because everybody from Texas knows the flower
yeah,
gardens, and then it's like no man's land, right? Like once you get east and you go to like the Holy Grail, everybody wants to go to is like Geyer Bank, right? So everybody's like, if I get to Geyer
I,
and that way, you're untapped. And then I try to tell
yeah,
everybody that's where you guys are. You guys are on out in that area that everybody wishes they could go to. So they're
yeah,
east of Geyer and all that.
picket fence, um, alder dice, all of those are stuff that we can fish out of here.
And so
Parker,
you specialize in a lot of 36-hour trips, right? That's the big bread and butter to kind of like save money. So that's why I want to tell everybody that you guys do 36-hour trips. You'll be launching kind of in the morning, and then you have a 3-hour run. And then it's awesome because you launch at 3 hours, depending on the time of the year. That gives you 6 to 10 hours of fishing, right? Like if it's
yeah,
summertime,
we leave not at daylight. We kind of ease into it, mainly because it depends on the 36 hour. Like if I got to catch live bait or whatever. But if we're just jig fishing, we're going to leave in the morning, and we'll be jigs down mid morning before lunch, call it, and then you'll get to fish that whole day. And what that allows you to do a lot of times in the evening, that bite goes off in the afternoons. Well, if you're just doing a day trip, you can't fish at 4, 5, 6 p.m. because you got to head back in. So that window right there makes a lot of trips. And then normally we'll fish till dark. And then after that, you have a couple of options. You can either put out some sword baits or you can move and go shallow. And then once you get shallow, sometimes you catch your red snapper at night. So you get to knock that off the list. You get your limited red snapper, whatever. And then after that, around midnight, normally everybody's done because you've been fishing all day. So me and my mate, we'll stay up, either make a move or, hang out, watch the radar or whatever. And then that you get that daylight bite again that you normally would miss on a day trip because you're traveling. And I find that evening and that morning bite really seems to go off. So you get both of those with an overnighter. And then we'll fish till, after lunch and then start making our way back in and we get in the next evening. So it's a lot
okay,
of
that's
fishing.
what I want to lead into because every queen bite I've seen has been that last 2 hours before evening, which is crucial. Like that 2 hour window, it like I don't know what turns them on, but it's just crazy for it. So that's why I was telling everybody about the different trip options for it, and the 36 hours also usually the most economical for everybody for it. Like if you're going to be out there, you burn the least amount of fuel because you're already out there, so you're not making multiple runs for it. So you get the most bang for your buck. How a lot of people see it.
Yeah, we'll normally swordfish at night till 10 or 11 midnight or whatever, and then let everything kind of wind down. And then after that, we'll normally make a move. The evening bite's really good, I think, because a lot of those fish don't feed at night, like groupers and stuff. I know they catch some in Florida at night, but for us, for whatever reason, we don't catch a lot of groupers at night.
We
So what
did
happens is those.
catch some in Florida at night. I was standing next to a guy who had a giant red grouper, but they have a ton of lights too. And I think that's also a thing, right? Those lights attract everything. So it's kind of the larger head boats. And so they're
Yeah,
attracting everything when you basically have like a city on like it's a 100-foot boat with all those lights, you're attracting everything.
For us, though, we don't seem to catch as many bottom fish at night, so I think those fish really go to chew before dark because they know it's getting late in the day, so they feed real heavy. And then it kind of shuts down at night for the grouper and the queens and stuff. And then again the next morning, for whatever reason, about a half an hour to an hour after daylight, they go to feed really well again till mid-morning or so.
Nice. Okay, so that makes sense for it. Trying to think of other things that people have kind of asked me for it. So the big ones was, what does he run? What's his engines? His cruising? Because we get, I want to say we get, we do the big boats here. They cruise at 10 miles an hour, right? So, or 12 or 16. So it's a
Yeah.
long run. So everybody knows the price they pay for those boats. And so you pay more for a center console, but the trade-off is you are flying in and out, right? Like nobody would ever dream of getting out to fishing grounds in 2.5 hours. It's unheard of.
Not only
A lot
that,
of the boats here, like 6-7 hours.
and it's a more personal experience too. Like you're with the captain the whole time, and my mate, who I'm blessed and fortunate to have a really good mate that fishes with us, and it's just more involved. You know what I mean? It's not like the captain's up in the bridge and you're not hardly talking to him. You know, I mean, you're looking at my sonar with me, we're talking. It's just a more involved experience, in my opinion. You know.
And then the beauty of it too, with having 40 miles of untouched land, and how everybody's notices, like especially with scamps. I don't know if it's just scamps, but I feel like you're picking them off, right? You're like 1, 2, 3 move spots,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. With the center console, with that much untapped land, you can hit every rock pile in the world because it's easier to move that boat. Moving a 37-foot boat, a lot easier than moving a 50, 60, 80, 100-foot boat. And you can sit on top of a spot. If it's a small spot, you can kind of hang over a lot easier with your boat.
Yeah. For some reason, if we want to make a power move and go see something different, we can run 30 miles and be there in less than an hour. A 30-mile run is a big piece of ground,
No,
you know?
it's huge. So trip he goes, we got to make a run. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, I got to go 12 miles. And I was like, you cruise at 40, make it. That's only like a 16-minute boat ride. Like where I'm used to, like when people say a 12-mile run, that's an hour of fishing you lose immediately. So what's nice is if somebody wants to pivot, and what I recommend, like sometimes the smaller boats, is if you want to go from shallow to, let's say, yellow edge, right? So yellow edge might be 12, 15 miles. You're there in 30 minutes. So you can change what you want to fish a lot easier with the smaller boat, and it's faster, and you have less people to kind of pull up all the gear. You don't have to pull up an anchor and do all that jazz.
Oh, no, we're ready to move in 10 minutes, you know? Pick the rods up, lay the cutting board over, we roll them. So that's a really big advantage. I didn't think about that for sure. Let's see what else. I like to mix it up a little bit. I like fishing yellow edge, obviously. One of my favorite fish to target on the jig because they get big, they're cool, they're delicious. But I also like fishing the shallow stuff. So I kind of like to pick our trips to where you get a mix of both, if possible. You know.
So that's an interesting one because yellow edge seems to not like jigs, right? I think that's the always thing. So like, what you say?
I agree with that. They can be tough on the jig. A big one, but I think that's a
Hang on, what happened? How do I bring what? I don't know what happened. I unplugged my charger for a second and kicked it off.
It's all good.
So please keep elaborating on it because that's one thing, right? Everybody, like my particular thing is I love, one, how they taste, and two, just how cool yellow edge looks.
Yeah.
So what have you learned like from fishing with jigs for yellow edge?
Who wouldn't? Yeah. Who doesn't want a 30-pound yellow edge on the jig? They're a tough fish to target on jigs, if I would, in my opinion. But if you cover enough ground, they normally seem to like to hit it as soon as you get the jig down there. Last month we caught a big one on the jig, and that's kind of how it played out. We fired the jig down, and as soon as it hit bottom, he was there. So normally when we try to target big yellow edge on the jigs, it's a lot of moving. You know, you're hitting a lot of bottom trying to find that one to hit it real early on instead of soaking for a long time.
I agree with you on that one. I feel like when I got my big one, I was probably the first or second one to hit
Yeah.
bottom, and I bounced twice and he was on.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty fast for it. And then Greg got a big one for it, but but the reason I was asking that is like I was going to get you to rank what fish you think are when somebody's playing a trip with you that are easiest to catch on jigs and which ones are a little trickier because everybody wants barrels, right? Everybody wants a barrel.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a yellow edge, which is two of the hardest ones to catch on jigs.
I find barrels are tough on jigs. They like squids a lot for whatever reason. The queens definitely like a jig more than bait, I would say, in my opinion.
Yes.
Scamps can go either way. Yellowmouths can go either way. You can catch some really nice yellowmouth grouper on a jig, but they also like a live bait. But that's one of those fish. Each day is different. Scamps and yellowmouths. I'm sure everybody knows. Longtail bass, they destroy a jig. For deep water.
I've learned that all too well. They hit it, and then they're so light that you don't even know you have one on sometimes, and then you go to lift it, and you're like, oh, there's a fish on there.
Exactly. So, that's kind of yellow edge are one of the tougher ones, but if you can get a big yellow edge on a jig, that's kind of what I like to push if I can. You know, that's a real trophy fish because they're not easy to catch on the jig and they get big and they're cool. You know what I mean? I do pretty good, I would say.
So I got a little bit of a bragging. I've only caught one yellow edge, and he was like dead 23 pounds. So I still hold that one as my big and only yellow edge I've ever caught.
Yeah, like whenever you hear, you don't realize this, but a 20-pound yellow edge is pushing 30 years old. So, I mean, these fish that you see, I mean, a 30, 40-pound yellow edge, that fish is pushing 40, 50 years old. So
I had that conversation with my cousin about that. He goes, do you feel guilty about that fish? And I said a little bit because people don't realize it's a great lead-in is that these big grouper are slow growing, right? Like my grouper was probably, when he was alive, probably 25. They lose probably, what, 10, 15%, 10%?
10%.
So he's probably, let's just say a 25-pound fish. He could have been easily 30, like you said, 35-year-old fish. They take forever to grow for it.
And it's just,
and so as much as
respect thing, you just want to have respect for those fish when you catch them because they've been around a long time. And that's why it's good to cover ground and hit bottom. You don't want to beat up one area because you can fish them out if you fish one area and they take a very long time to grow. So with that being said, normally when I'm catching grouper, I like to catch a couple and then move along.
No, that makes sense for it. So if you were to plan, like, so say you were telling people to book a trip with you, how would you, if you were to book a trip, how would you plan out a perfect trip? Like, how would you tell people, like, if you were to recommend, I would do this, I would do that, how would you kind of recommend a trip to be with you?
Sure. Definitely overnight, 36-hour. Leave in the morning, get out there, do deep water complex first day. Do yellow edges first as the day goes on, kind of work deeper. Queen snapper in the evening. And then after that, if you really want to, you swordfish deep at night because you're working south already. Swordfish at 12 to 1,400 foot. If you're not into sword fishing, make a move in shallow. Get there around midnight. Get set up. And the next day, I would want to be shallow fishing scamps and exotics for the second half of the trip.
Okay, so kind of going back to another one, what people want versus what you're good at. What do you think your bread and butter is that you're like, I know you want this, but I'm really good at this. You want that, but I'm really good at this, so I'd recommend that I know I can do this for you. Like, what fish are you real good at catching?
I bottom fish.
But what kind of bottom fish, right? Because it's very vague, right? Like some people are really good at like your shallow water.
I like fishing yellow edge, and I like fishing exotics.
So, okay.
Fishing too. Yeah, anything at 200 to 300 foot, and then other than that, I like being in 600 foot fishing for big yellow edge.
Perfect. The reason I said it's because like we've learned that there's two type of trips that everybody's doing in Louisiana, right? I didn't coin this. There's the sleigh fest, right, where you just fill the boat, and then there's the let's chase exotics, right? Let's chase these fish of a lifetime. So that's why I was asking this because I learned that like some people come out and they just want to load the boat. They want to get 100 queens. Beautiful. And then some people are like, I've done that. I want to chase the marble. I want to chase that fireback. I want to chase that kitty. That's why I was just kind of curious on how you work these.
said before, I'm not a real big meat haul guy. Like, I mean, I kill my fair share, but like, I'm not the guy that's going to go catch 100 of the same species. I kind of like to do a different experience and kind of change things up. Now, it's different on queens and stuff. That's a high tier fish. You know what I mean? But like, if you're looking to go catch 73 blackfins, that I'm probably not your guide. Like, I like going after hard stuff to fish for. That's kind of the experience that I like to give, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It just kind of gives us
Yeah.
what you're good at, what you prefer. Because
Yeah.
the worst is when you have a captain that doesn't match the need, or you don't have a need that matches the captain. It creates like a bad atmosphere, right? Like if somebody comes in and says, "I want this," and they're like, "Well, that's not what I expected." So I like everybody knowing what they're getting into, so you have an enjoyable experience with your customer, and the
Yeah.
customer enjoys being with you.
I'm much more into, if you got something that you're going after, a bucket list fish, and you want to target that one fish, let's go try to check that box instead of catching a large variety of fish that are kind of lower grade, if that makes any sense. That's the stuff that I prefer doing.
Perfect. And then, okay, another transition for it. You guys are coming jigging fishing with you. What jigs have you seen that are working? Like what colors, what jigs? Like when people are stacking up to like they book a trip with you, now they got to start gearing up, right? They got to get
Sure.
jigs or whatnot. What's been the bread and honey out there that's been working?
Um, my first grouper came on a Johnny Jigs torpedo. Now I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I'm a jig pro guy. What's the 300? Is it a like that 300? Is it a 300 gram torpedo?
Yeah,
White.
this
Yeah, I used
the
to catch
all glow 300 gram.
Yeah, I used to catch a lot of grouper on that. My go-to is I'm gonna be honest, 240 strike, 340 strike when I'm deep. If I can get away with it, I'll fish a 140 strike, and my colors are the yellow crackle and the black crackle. I buy every color. Those are the ones that I fish. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you.
So you know,
Um,
what's the difference in shape? Is it only that shape, or is it like just that jig, or do you think it's that shape? Because I've heard people say queen's like real
I've
long,
heard that
all
too.
glow, like as bright a highlighter
Yeah,
yellow as you can get.
yellow as you can get. That's a good question. I think on some days it probably makes a difference for sure. I think majority is keeping it vertical and keeping it in front of them as long as you can, especially like a group or like a big yellow edge. He's sitting down there, and then when that jig falls, he reaction bites and hits it. I think that's really what gets bites on the bigger yellow edge, in my opinion. I've caught a bunch on deeps. I've caught them on semis. I've caught them on strikes. I own every size of every color, and to be honest, I think it's day to day different. You know, I have seen some days where they key in on some colors more than others, but in my opinion, I think they feel it more than they see it in deep water. But I could be wrong. There's some guys on here that are much more technical at it than I am. But
No,
that's
I've
just
had
what
a
I've seen from my.
bunch of people talk about like Benny Ortiz is on here right now, and Benny told me in my first interview that color doesn't matter. A lot of times they go out there and the jigs
I
will
would agree.
be
Sure.
the jigs are completely unpainted, and they're just trying to get the flutter and then the look for it. That deep, they're not seeing it. They're
No,
feeling it, and it's reaction for it. So
yeah, they just feel it next to them, so they hit it. And I would agree with that more than anything on color. And like I've seen also you want it like the smallest one because it gives you the most hang time that you can get down. And I've seen that productive. And I've also seen it to where you send the biggest jig down in 200 foot and they hit that too. You know what I mean? Like I've seen some dudes drop a 400 gram because they were just starting out. And like I would be fishing a 140 and they fire that 400 down and they catch them just as much. And you wouldn't think that would be the case. But I think when they're chewing, it's just a matter of getting it in front of them.
I have a buddy who thinks big grouper are territorial, and so he thinks the first jig to hit the bottom initiates that bite. So sometimes he likes being like you said, the first one down there. He's like it's the first thing they hit. And so if you've got somebody going slower with a lighter jig, you're not getting down as quick. So I have a buddy. He doesn't matter what it is. He sends a 430 rock caster because he wants to be the first one down there.
And you would
Especially
think, yeah, you would think that would be counterintuitive dropping that big jig down at 200 foot, but they get eaten. You know, before I didn't know any better. I used to fish a 400 deep in like 200 foot of water, and I caught a ton of scamps on it.
yeah.
I didn't know any better. I didn't know I was supposed to be fishing a lighter one. That's what I had, and I caught plenty of fish on that.
So would you say the ground out there is sticky? Like I guess we're trying to help people figure out for it. So when you're jigging out there, are you running singles, doubles for it? Like,
I'm running 2 doubles, top and bottom. The shallower stuff will get sticky a little bit when you're in 200 foot and you're fishing the exotics. You kind of got to watch out, and they will rock you up. Deep water complex stuff, not so much. Like when you're in 600-800 foot of water, it's kind of tough to find a real hard rock out there. I don't know if the coral doesn't grow that deep. That's what I suspect, and I think it's just hard bottom you're fishing at that point. But in shallow, I have seen it to where you'll snag coral or you reel up coral by accident because it gets snagged. So it's
yeah, I dealt with that last time.
very live coral out there.
So what else? I was trying to think of anything for it. I had a bunch of questions for it. Me and you have just talked so much via the chat for it that like, go ahead.
I mean, oh, good tip. Appreciate it, Benny. I don't know if you saw that comment or not. For me,
I can't see the comments for some reason.
Yeah, I was reading one earlier. You didn't know. Yeah. He said spawn cycle makes a difference, and they seem to think that's what really fires those fish up midsummer. Some people say that that's why the summertime is as good as what it is, but at the same time, I think to catch them, you got to go. And during the summer, if you get the better weather patterns, that's when you catch them because you're going a lot, if that makes any sense. I mean,
do you think the daylight has the thing to do with it during the summer, that you have more daylight and then they can see the jigs more? So like when it gets darker and then for the daylight's different?
I think it has to do with the bait transitioning. I think the bait probably goes up in the water column at night so the fish don't feed it. And then during the day, the fish seem to go back down the bottom, and that's what fires those fish up, if that makes any sense. That's what I think.
No, it makes sense. Sorry, I was trying to see the comments. If there's any comments that pop up, feel free to address them. For some reason, it doesn't let me see. It just tells me who's online.
Okay. Another thing, like I'm just one of you guys, you know. I like fishing jigs a lot. And that's what I want to expand my clientele to, is the more jig, long range, exotics. So yeah, I'd love to take you guys. I'm definitely looking forward to making our trip, and anybody else that's interested, please feel free to hit me up, and we'll go catch them.
So one of the things I want to address for the group for is that reason this conversation might not be floated as much is because I've had a ton, and so have my cousins. We've had a ton of conversations with Tyler. Like I text Tyler all the time and bug him for questions for it. So the communication has been in a chat. So all this has been addressed a million times. And I can tell you the passion and then the amount of stuff that he sends me, not as a captain, but as like a friend of like, I caught this, we caught that today. That's why I wanted to get you on and address the group for it. Is like, there's a passion for it. You didn't do this because this was the hot thing going on. You like it and you want to do all slow pitch. And if I could show you guys the text, he's like, once you guys get out here, we're going to hit untapped lands. Like, I can't wait to get you down here for it. Like, there's a passion when you talk to Tyler that he's not just a captain doing it to like collect a paycheck. Like, there is a want and desire to get that.
Yeah, I want to catch them just as much or more than y'all. Like, and it's not because I want to do it. Like, obviously, I want to make my clients happy, but like, this is new. Even when I don't have clients, I go jig fish. Like, it's not something that I'm just looking for to get business through the jig community. Like, I've been in this before, way before that. So with that being said, yeah, I was in the groups years ago, you know, so it's definitely a productive way to fish. We definitely, Louisiana, I take a lot of pride in my fishery. I think we have a really strong fishery. It's really underdeveloped, especially with guys from Texas. It's not a crazy long trip, and come check it out. You know, we have a bunch of bottom to go fish. So with that being said, I mean, part of the fun is exploring stuff that you've never been to before and learning. You know, I think that's what makes jig fishing so attractive to me is, I mean, I've been fishing offshore my whole life, but this is something new and it's constantly evolving. You know, I learned from a lot of guys in this room, you know.
No, same thing for it too. Like a ton. I ask questions. I learn, even if it's a dumb question, I'd rather ask it just to know it for it. So what I want to tell the group members is we had this trip booked with Tyler. And what stood out to me is Tyler told us, I'm not going to run a shitty trip. If it's not the trip that we want, I work on return business. And if I do you guys justice just to make a buck, nobody's going to come back. that I'd rather have the conditions to be able to put you guys on the fish and allow for y'all to fish the way I want. That was one of the big things you told us and one of the private told me and my cousin because we were in charge of the trip that really stood out that you said we could go. That's probably not going to be the trip you guys want. And so you'd rather not just do a
Yeah,
trip to do a trip.
the guide service that I offer is not based on like a tourist deep sea fishing type community. For me to be successful, I need returning customers that are people that fish. That it's kind of hard to explain, but like I want my customers to be returning and go after fish that they've been wanting to catch and do more technical stuff, not ones that just want to go say that they've been deep sea fishing just to go out there and experience it and never come back. That doesn't benefit me because you can't grow relationships with people like that. And to grow a good guide service, I think it needs to be based on returning clientele, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And so tell everybody your social medias, right? So if they want to book, cococharters.com.
CocoCharters.com. Hit me up directly. Cell phone 985-855-0959. You can reach out to me on that. Social media at Tyler Mistich. I think that's a dash on the Instagram. I'm not sure. But yeah, search Tyler Mistich. I'm the only one.
So what I'll do is the posts for the chat for this video, I'll put all your socials and I'll tag everything for it. But I always just tell everybody that he does have Instagram, he does have Facebook. You part with the cool kids? You got your TikTok yet?
No, dude. No TikTok.
No TikTok. I have to ask, YouTube channel yet or anything?
No, dude, I'm a fisherman. I'm not a content creator. Like, I respect those guys, but that's not my thing. I watch it, but like.
I have to ask, I try to push everybody's socials as much as I can because it draws attention in for everything for us. So if you got it, we'll push it.
Yeah.
I think that's it. We appreciate your time. And you got anything you want to end it with that everybody that we missed or what you want people to know about you? Or
please come down. Hang on, I got some comments I'm looking at. William, appreciate you. Looking forward to it, buddy. I know we done tried a couple times. Yeah, come down to Cocodrie, Louisiana.
I see these. This makes me frustrated.
I don't know. You might have to check it on the replay.
Yeah, I'll probably have to. All I can see is just who's watching.
Yeah, I don't know who's in the group right now. I seen Benny was in here earlier. Appreciate that. I've been following.
So
him
Benny
along.
was my very first interview for the group. So I am eternally grateful that Benny joined this and helped contribute stuff for. Yeah, he was my very first interview I've ever done.
Long time. Other than that, like I said, we got a beautiful marina, first class, lodging, first class, 37 Freeman, great boat. Yeah, we got a really good team. We got management that backs us 100%. They're not in it to make a buck one bit. They want to produce the highest fishery that we can. That's what they're interested in. Bar none.
And so I want to, their owners, how can I word this? They have really good owners who give him top quality product. That's why I was going to try to explain it. I was trying to not word it. He's got a 37-foot Freeman. They're not afraid to spend money, it seems like, to give you the best boat and materials and gear to do your job for it. So this isn't like a mom and pop, like somebody's just trying to get by. There is money being put into this operation. So if they're jumping on with you, they're getting the best they can get.
There is no better backing than the one I have on this project. They're the real deal. Really good people, and all they want to do is bring people down to experience what Louisiana has to offer. And I take a lot of pride in that because I'm from here.
Okay, and the last thing, so if people want to book with you, they can go ahead and start booking 2025. Yes?
Yep. Get with me first direct to discuss dates. But when you do go to book, it's going to be on cococharters.com. You're going to select me on my boat, the 37 Freeman Bushwhacker. And then you can select your days and just reach out to me before. We'll discuss what you're looking to go do. Like I said, I recommend the overnight 36-hour trip. Right now they're running 4,000 plus fuel, which is really competitive, if not lower than everybody else in the business. I know it's an expensive trip. That's what they're running right now. And I'm really looking to expand on the jigging, on the jigging front. That's kind of the direction I want my trips to head. I want to do long range, more technical than your regular everyday offshore trip. So I'm really, really excited to move forward with this, with this direction.
And we have something kind of in the work that he's trying to run by his owners
Yeah.
that hopefully we get approval on it. So once we get more on that, it'll benefit the group and we'll make the announcement on it. I don't know if you've got an answer. I don't want to put it out there yet until you guys talk about it more.
No,
but once that might go through.
Basically, we're trying to make it to where it's per person up to 6 people. That way we can kind of get people from the group together to make a trip, because it's hard to get a 6-man crew all the time. So that's
so we're trying to do with our Louisiana captains, and this is the last thing, I'll wrap it up. We're trying to create some more open boat things, because the issue for a lot of us is we have 1, 2, maybe 3 people that can jump on a trip, but the hard part is trying to get the additional 3. And these are trip of a lifetime. So if we can get it where we can help the captains fill spots or do trips they normally wouldn't, because they have 3 people who have money, but then they don't have 3 others. So we can create open boats, kind of like we do with tuna. And you guys have it with the head boats down there. You guys do open boats.
Oh, yeah.
To try to do it, we can do an open boat on these center consoles where he gets a boat full of just SPJ guys, and they pay just their own portion, and then it goes out for it. So we're trying to work with a bunch of the captains to get that, because I want everybody taking advantage of what I've got to do 3 trips on. They were trips of a lifetime, and I want everybody to enjoy it, and I don't want the fact that you don't have one financial to pay for a whole boat. It's a big deposit for all these, and having to I almost feel like you're trying to get beer, like when underage, you're like, hey, mister, you want to come on? Hey, mister, you want to come with me? And then you're recruiting people. Well, we can put a post out saying we got an open boat.
Yeah.
Jump up. We'll bill each person individually. Let's say y'all will bill each other individually, and then you're only responsible for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea, because for one, like I said, I like making the trips just like everybody else. I get just as excited now. I've been charter fishing my whole life, and I still get just as excited the day before a trip, just like my clients do, So anything we can do to kind of help make it a little easier, because I understand it's a big financial investment to make these trips. They're not cheap. Everybody that's really good at making these long range trips out of Louisiana, they're doing it on a big boat just because of the runs we have to make it worthwhile. So with that being said, they're not cheap boats.
No, it just makes life easier, because I've been in charge of. I was trying to book a private with you, right? I'll wrap this up. Trying to book a private with you, and then we're trying to recruit people, and then you have people coming and going, and then you're trying to figure out who's in. And then I had this nerdy spreadsheet of how much money everybody put in. And with open boats, it kind of helps put a little bit more on the captain. But people who want to do solo trips, I drove all the way to San Diego solo to join the Johnny Jigs guys for it. People are willing to make these drives to do a trip when they know that it's a trip of a lifetime, and they're only responsible for just themselves.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. It makes it easier for sure. So I don't want to keep up too much more of your time, man. I appreciate you.
No, that's it. That was how I was going to end it for it. And then just tell everybody good night. And please go back and rewatch this. If you got any questions, please ping Tyler directly for it. He's all over Facebook. He'll answer any questions for it. And that's it.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.